FIFA is allocating more than $1 billion to the grass for the 2026 World Cup. One venue in Atlanta has to grow its turf under LED lights because the roof blocks the sun, and a field in Vancouver required 80 tons of sand just for the base layer. So the question is, can an ordinary homeowner actually replicate any part of a World Cup pitch, or is it an entirely different class of grass? We'll break it down step by step, attaching real costs to each stage. By the end, you'll know exactly what a World Cup standard lawn entails, which shortcuts are realistic for a backyard, and how much it will truly cost. What World Cup grass really means. Before any construction begins, we have to define the target. World Cup grass isn't a single species, it's a system. The 2026 tournaments will use hybrid turf, roughly 90 to 95% living grass reinforced with 5 to 10% synthetic fibers woven into the root zone. Those fibers don't replace the grass, they hold it together and prevent divots when a player plants a foot and the turf tears. A typical backyard never experiences that kind of repeated, concentrated impact, so hybrid reinforcement is a professional sports solution, not a backyard requirement. Grass species are chosen based on climate. Warm regions use Bermuda grass bred for heat and direct sun. Cooler regions and dome stadiums rely on a blend of Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass because Bermuda goes dormant and turns brown in cold weather. This decision matters for you because the only part of World Cup science that directly applies to homeowners is matching the grass to the local climate, not picking the one that looks best on television. The third component is the root zone itself, a sand-based growing medium rather than native soil. Sand drains quickly, compacts less under repeated foot traffic, and lets crews swap entire sections of turf like carpet tiles. Some stadiums even grow the turf off-site on plastic sheeting, then truck it in and lay it down like rolls of carpet. The real question isn't whether you can obtain that exact grass, but which parts of the system are about appearance and performance, and which parts are about surviving an NFL schedule plus a World Cup on top of it. See Phase 1 soil and drainage. Every lawn problem traces back to what lies beneath it. And this is where the stadium comparison becomes useful rather than intimidating. Stadiums build a sand-based root zone because it drains fast and resists compaction under heavy repeated use. You don't need a full sand-based field, but you do need soil that drains well and isn't compacted. There are two realistic paths depending on your starting point. If your existing soil drains reasonably well and just needs improvement, you can till in organic matter, compost, aged manure, and coarse sand if the soil is heavy clay. You'll also need to grade the yard so water moves away from the house instead of pooling. For an average suburban lot of about 1,500 to 3,000 square feet, doing this yourself with rented equipment runs roughly $300 to $800 in materials and rental fees. If your soil is a genuine problem, standing water, heavy clay, poor grading, you may need a contractor to regrade and install drainage. On the same size lot, that typically costs $2,000 to $6,000, depending on how much excavation is required. This is also the stage to get a soil test. A basic test costs $15 to $50 through a county extension office or a private lab and tells you the pH and nutrient levels before you spend another dollar on grass. Most turf grasses prefer a pH between 6.0 and 7.0. If your soil falls far outside that range, applying lime to raise pH or sulfur to lower it costs another $20 to $60 for an average lot, and it's far cheaper to correct now than after the sod is down. Stadium turf managers test soil constantly, tracking it almost like a lab process. It's the cheapest, highest leverage step in the entire project, and it's the one most homeowners skip. Grading deserves its own mention here. A lawn should slope gently away from the house, generally about 1 inch of drop for every 4 feet to keep water from pooling against the foundation. If your yard is flat or pitched the wrong way, fix it now before the grass goes in, not after. Phase 2, choosing the right grass for your climate. This principle transfers directly from the World Cup project to your yard because FIFA didn't pick a single grass for all 16 stadiums. They chose 2 based on climate. If you live in a warm season region, the lower latitude, hot summer parts of the country, Bermuda grass is the closest match to what World Cup venues in similar climates use. It tolerates heat, recovers quickly from wear, and goes dormant and brown in cold winters. If you live in a cool season region, a Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass blend mirrors what the cooler climate and dome stadiums grow. It stays green longer in colder areas, but doesn't tolerate extreme heat as well as Bermuda. Sod versus seed is the next real cost decision. Sod gives you an instant, mature-looking lawn, which is closer to what stadium turf farms deliver, finished grass trucked in and rolled out. For a 1,500 to 3,000 square foot yard, sod typically runs $1,200 to $3,500, including installation, depending on grass type and region. Seed is dramatically cheaper, usually $100 to $400 in seed, and starter fertilizer for the same area, but it takes weeks to establish and is more vulnerable to weeds and erosion while it's coming in. There is no hybrid hack here. The synthetic fiber reinforcement that stadiums use isn't sold as a retail homeowner product for this purpose, and there's no realistic backyard substitute that would justify the cost or complexity. For a residential lawn, that part of the system simply doesn't apply. One more detail worth knowing: if you go with sod, timing and handling matter as much as the product itself. Sod is a perishable, living material. It should be laid within 24 to 48 hours of being cut, watered immediately after installation, and kept consistently moist for the first 2 to 3 weeks while roots establish into the soil below. Stadium sod farms manage this with refrigerated trucks and tight installation windows. At home, the equivalent is simply scheduling delivery for a day you can install and water the same day, not letting rolled sod sit in your driveway over a hot weekend. Phase 3, irrigation. Stadium pitches are irrigated and monitored with a level of precision that has no real backyard equivalent. Sensors track moisture levels, and automated systems adjust in real time. You're not replicating that, but the underlying need, consistent, even watering, absolutely applies to you. A basic in-ground sprinkler system for a 1,500 to 3,000 square foot lawn typically costs $1,500 to $4,000 professionally installed, depending on zones and water pressure. A DIY drip or sprinkler setup using above-ground components can be done for $200 to $600 if you're comfortable with the installation yourself. If you're not ready to invest in a system, a simple oscillating sprinkler and a hose timer in the $30 to $80 range will get new grass established. It just demands more of your own attention to keep watering even and consistent. Phase 4, mowing and maintenance equipment. Pavco The corporation managing Vancouver's World Cup Stadium ordered 7 lawn mowers specifically for pitch maintenance, sourced from suppliers with a track record at FIFA and major tournament venues. You will not need 7 mowers, but the principle behind that order matters for your lawn. The right mower, set at the right height for your grass type, used consistently, does more for turf quality than almost anything else on this list. For Bermuda grass, you generally want a real mower capable of cutting low, often under an inch. Those run $150 to $600, manual or powered depending on yard size. For a bluegrass or ryegrass lawn, a standard rotary mower set higher, typically 2.5 to 4 inches, works fine. A quality residential rotary mower runs $300 to $1,000. Add basic maintenance tools, a spreader for fertilizer and seed, a rake, an edger, and you're looking at another $100 to $300 if you don't already own them. Phase 5, ongoing fertility and repair. Stadium turf gets aggressively managed because it has to survive 8 World Cup matches on the same patch of grass in some venues, plus NFL games before and after. Your lawn doesn't face that kind of concentrated abuse, but it does need a fertility program if you want it to look like a maintained field rather than an average yard. A basic annual fertilization program, 4 to 6 applications time to your grass type and season, runs $150 to $400 a year if you do it yourself with bag product, or $300 a year if you hire a lawn care service. Budget separately for overseeding cool season lawns in the fall. Typically $50 to $150 a year in seed, and for spot repairing worn or damaged patches, the closest thing your yard as to what stadium ground crews do between matches. Identify stressed areas early and treat them before they die out and have to be replaced. Can you actually build it? Here's the honest answer. You cannot replicate a World Cup pitch in your backyard because most of what makes it a World Cup pitch isn't about the grass at all. It's about stadium scale, logistics, and engineering, sand-based root zones built to a precise depth, synthetic fibers stitched into living turf to survive cleats and collisions, off-site turf farms growing sod on plastic for transport, and LED grow lights compensating for stadium roofs that block the sun. None of that is designed to scale down, and none of it is sold to homeowners because it doesn't solve a problem homeowners actually have. But you can build something that follows the same underlying logic stadiums use, and you can do it on a realistic budget. Start by testing and preparing your soil. Choose a grass species that matches your climate the same way FIFA matched Bermuda to warm cities and bluegrass blends to cool ones. Water consistently. Mow at the right height with the right equipment. Feed on a schedule instead of guessing. If you do all 5 phases yourself with sod, a basic irrigation upgrade, and a full equipment list, you're looking at roughly $3,500 to $9,000 for an average suburban lot, most of it up front. If you go leaner, seed instead of sod, a simple hose timer instead of an in-ground system, and a few seasons of patience, you can achieve a genuinely great lawn for under $1,000. That's not a World Cup pitch. It's something better for your actual life, a lawn built on the right